Howdy again everyone, and today we come across one of the star lenses for Sony's E-mount cameras, the planar FE 50mm f1.4 ZA. It carries the Zeiss label on it for extra marketing esteem, although recently I've come to see that as a bit of a warning sign, sadly enough. It's for Sony's mirrorless E-mount cameras, Fullframe or APS-C, and it costs a whopping $1,500 or about £1,300 in the UK. That is a huge investment. It has a good enough reputation on the internet though. Let's see if it's worth it. 50mm on a full-frame camera is just about one of the most popular focal lengths out there. It gives you a nice little emphasis on your subject, and an aperture as bright as f1.4 gives you some real background separation. If used on an APS-C camera, then 50mm is the full-frame equivalent of 75mm, giving you a tighter field of view, useful for subject photography. f1.4 also lets you shoot in dark situations much more easily, and so this tends to be a favourite lens of many wedding photographers. This particular version is the flagship model for Sony's E-mount cameras, and you can immediately tell in its excellent build quality. It's good looking, big, metallic and heavy, weighing 780 grams, just under 2 pounds. It's based on a metal lens mount, which surprisingly does not feature a weather sealing gasket. Next comes the aperture ring. It can be toggled between clicking at every third of a stop, which is satisfying for stills photographers, and having a smooth action instead, by means of a little switch. That's a brilliant system. When shooting in video mode, that smooth moving aperture ring leaves you with beautiful looking aperture changes, as you can see here. You don't have to use the aperture ring at all if you don't want to, just leave it set to A mode and you can control the aperture through your camera. Next comes the focus ring. It's metallic too and turns very smoothly and is very responsive in use, no problems here at all. The lens noticeably zooms in as you focus closer to your subject. The autofocus motor works averagely quickly, as you can see here. I didn't encounter any accuracy problems with it. Its motor emits a quiet whirring sound though, which can be heard on your camera's microphone when shooting video. In fact, when shooting video, even with the camera set to fast mode, the lens focused slowly and uncertainly. The lens comes with quite a nice hood, a soft pouch, and its front filter size is 72mm. It does not feature image stabilization. Overall, top marks for build quality here. As you'd expect for such a pricey piece of equipment, its only real omission is a weather sealing gasket. Everything else is perfect. Anyway, let's move on and look at image quality. Firstly, on a full-frame 42MP camera. Image quality in the middle of the picture is very sharp at f1.4 with quite good contrast, although it's not razor sharp. Here's some good news, the corner image quality is very sharp too. That's no mean feat for an f1.4 lens on a 42MP camera. Stop down to f2 and those corners are just marginally sharper, but image quality in the middle is now turned up to 11. f2.8 is just as perfect in the middle, and the corners again see just an edge of extra sharpness from before, looking virtually perfect now. They stay this sharp down to f11, so it's a really excellent performance on full frame. I think this might be just about the sharpest 50mm lens I've ever tested, well, so far. Now let's see about its performance on APS-C. I'm going to mount it onto a 24MP Sony a5100 for this test. At f1.4, image quality in the middle is still impressively sharp, but still shies away from perfection. Corner image quality is a little softer here, but not bad. At f2, corners are sharper, and the middle of the image looks spectacular. At f2.8, the middle of the image looks completely perfect, and again, the corners look just a little bit sharper. At f4, the corners look perfect, and they stay this sharp down to f8, and f11 begins to see a little softness creeping in from the effects of diffraction. But really, even on APS-C, it's still a very good show here. Now let's see about distortion and vignetting on a full-frame camera if you're not using corrections. The lens projects just a little edge of pincushion distortion here, nothing you'll ever notice in real life. Vignetting is heavy at f1.4 though. Stop down to f2 to see it reduced, and at f2.8 it's almost gone, but still, you'll definitely want to use in-camera corrections here. Next, close-up image quality. The lens can focus down to 45 centimeters to your subject. That's average for a 50mm lens. Close-up image quality is disappointingly soft at f1.4. It's sharper at f2, and at f2.8, pretty good, so definitely stop the lens down a bit when shooting close-up. Now let's see how the lens works against bright light. This Zeiss lens exhibits a strange effect that I've never seen before. Contrast generally remains high and flaring is low, but if you look directly into bright light, then a very unusual and strong, localized, glaring effect pops up. I did check the lens for defects or dirt, and the optics looked completely clean to me. Very strange. And while we're working in the dark, let's look at chroma levels. As we can see, this lens exhibits almost no chroma smearing on bright points of light in the corners of your images, even at f1.4. Stop down to f2, and anything that was there is gone. Next, bokeh. I have some good news for you here. Not only is this lens sharp, but its bokeh is beautifully soft. I wasn't able to provoke the lens into giving me anything other than very lovely backgrounds here, a great performance. And finally, something related to bokeh is longitudinal chromatic aberration. At f1.4, we see some pretty strong blue and magenta colour fringing on bokeh highlights if you look closely enough. It's reduced at f2, and at f2.8, it's gone. Well, regular viewers of this channel might be a bit sick and tired of my constant complaining about Zeiss branded lenses, but this time they're finally living up to their reputation, as the planar 50mm f1.4 ZA is an awesome piece of equipment that will make many Sony shooters very happy. Sure, it's a bit big and heavy, its optics aren't completely perfect, and it's certainly expensive, but if you want the best option possible, you just have to pay for it, I'm afraid. Its simple combination of sharpness and smoothness of bokeh will mean that professionals can be assured of getting relatively good value for money out of it. Its images just look wonderful, and so it comes highly recommended.